Welcome, Jumbo. Welcome.
Jumbo.
You are joining us here today on Operation Power, a voice for Black radical politics and revolutionary change. My name is Inez Barron, and I'm joined with my co-host, my husband, the bold, the outspoken, the indomitable, the one, the only, the unbought, and the unbossed
Charles Barron. And as I say each and every week, it is an honor, a humbling honor to be with the love of my life, the stunningly beautiful,
thank you,
absolutely brilliant, my wife for 43 years, the bold, the bad, Inez Barron.
Thank you so much. We're so glad you're with us today. We've got an exciting program for you, and it's entitled "The U.S. and Israel's Attack on Iran, an African Internationalist Perspective." And we've got a special guest, our brother Omali Yeshitela, president of the African People's Socialist Party. Sure. He'll be joining us shortly. And tune somebody, call somebody, let them know we're on the air, and we're going to have an exciting presentation. You're going to be well informed about what it is that's happening. But first, we do want to begin our program with a brief libation. We believe that as an African people, we are where we are based on the contributions and sacrifices of those who have gone before us, those whom we know by name and those who we don't know, but who made their contribution to our struggle. And we want to take time to acknowledge them. So at this time, our engineer, Brother Kiru Gichiru, is going to show a libation video.
A libation. And so for this very important presentation, we begin by the pouring of libation. We pour libation first to our first ancestor, to that hidden one who, though hidden, manifests in all things as all things, that God-Goddess idea in the universe by any and all names. To our first ancestor, we pour libation, Ashe. We pour libation too to our ancestors because they were the first people on this planet, mothers and fathers of all mankind, flashpoint of the human family. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to our ancestors because they were the ones who first gave birth to the idea of civilization, knew we would need a form of governance, and they nurtured that idea along the Nile until it reached its zenith in Kemet. There they built these gigantic monuments as evidence of that great civilization, and they carved instructions on the walls of temples and tombs for us, so we would never forget. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to our ancestors because over time they put together all the tenets of civilization, and they took those ideas and left the continent. They were the people of the first Exodus. They left Africa and went all over the world and peopled the world. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. We pour libation too to our ancestors because they did not sit on their laurels. They continued to improve, continued to evolve, and at each point of evolution, they again would leave the continent and settle and resettle the planet. They met themselves coming and going. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe.
Asheo.
Asheo.
We want to always acknowledge our ancestors.
Yes.
They're watching us and encouraging us and being that source for us to be moving forward and doing our part in our struggle. We next have a brief portion of a video that we want to share with you to give you an insight, a snippet of what it is that we do in Operation Power, talks about our beginning and some of the accomplishments that we have made over the years.
Operation Power stands for people organizing and working for empowerment and respect.
Operation Power is a grassroots social justice organization founded by local community stakeholders, which includes activists, organizers, and leaders who understand that the system as it is currently structured is destroying us and our communities.
The system, the capitalist system, one that promotes human greed over human need, one that promotes profit over people, needs to be dismantled. These local community organizers recognize capitalism needs to be destroyed and replaced with socialism.
Thank you so much. Just a little brief portion of what we normally show. And we do want to highlight some books that are very personal to us that our organization has been involved with. And the first one is called Speaking Truth to Power. And it is a collection of articles and essays on liberation, on struggle, on leadership, and it's written by Charles Barron. The second one is called It's Not You, It's Capitalism, Why It's Time to Break Up and How to Move On. And it's both a primer to capitalism, understanding it, and moving on to how we can improve our situation. The next is a novel. It is written by Kevin Barron, and it is entitled Black Rising. It's a page turner. Once you start it, you won't put it down until you're finished. The next one is a second of the trilogy, and it's called Black Rising, Home and Abroad. It continues a theme that was introduced in the first book. And the last in the trilogy is called The Threat, also by Kevin Barron. And all of these books are available online through Barnes and Nobles. Well, we've got an exciting program. We've got the chairman with us, and we're excited to be able to hear his comments as he's moving forward. And we just want to let you know that he is the chairman of the Uhuru Movement, an organization that exists in several places here in the United States. And they are doing on-the-ground work in our communities. They're building housing. They've got furniture stores. They've got a catering facility. They're involved with community and the youth. And they are a voice and a force to be reckoned with where they exist.
And he's also the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, an international party that champions the African Socialist International and the ideology, the theory of African internationalism. So before we hear from the chairman, there was a nice podcast that they had that I thought was very fitting to get us started. And then we'll hear, Chairman, you can wave and say hi before I go to the tape. I don't want to have you sitting there and don't say nothing. Go ahead, man.
Well, no, I really appreciate being here with you. And also, I just wanted to say that that libations, I love that. And, you know, we initiated in 1981 at our first tribunal, at our first Congress, we initiated African Martyrs Day. And it just seems to me that I want to try and find a way to incorporate that into our African Martyrs Day event. We do that every year on the anniversary of the murder of Malcolm X. So yeah, that was impressive. And also, my wife is not here with me, next to me, as dear comrade Inez is there with you. But you know, she sends her greetings, and because we have this really, I feel, really special kind of relationship, and we appreciate you so much. So, and I just wanted to say that.
Likewise.
And this, by the way, I don't know. Did you know that we air your show on Black Power 96 in St. Petersburg, Florida?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's aired every Tuesday. It will be aired. This show will be aired on Tuesday at 2 Eastern Time.
Oh, wow.
That's Black Power 96.3. So, yeah.
Great.
I'm going to send a shout out to all of those comrades and Brother Eddie, who is our station manager. And they'll be seeing this again, this show. They'll be seeing it on Tuesday. Yes. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And, you know, we can't say enough about Omali Yeshitela, you know, my brother, you're all a special couple in our movement, and you represent strong Black revolutionary love. And it's something that couples that are now getting involved in the movement, you know, because it's very challenging to keep a positive relationship and be in the movement. Y'all do it well. And Ona, wow,
special
stuff
sister.
that she does. Now she got to be special because she be away from you for months sometimes, taking care of business, you know, making sure y'all get some real estate, some properties, and get
dotting
those
the I's,
projects.
crossing the
Oh
T's.
man, this is bad. So
Yeah.
well, I want to show this video because, you know, the biggest challenge we have sometimes is the colonial capitalist propaganda machine. It's powerful. It's powerful. Yes. So, you know, they're talking about how they're whipping Iran so badly, and only 2 or 3 of their folk have died, and maybe only one little car was blown up theirs, you know. So they're saying all that, but it reminds me of, Chairman, when General Westmoreland in the Vietnam War, right before they got their butts whipped, the day before, he said, "We bombed Hanoi, and it should be over in another minute or 2. Next thing I know, I saw a helicopter, people jumping on it, trying to get out of there, and the Vietnam was claiming victory. I remember when they said, we got him, Osama bin Laden, we got him. So it should be over any minute now. This is in Afghanistan, and they was there for decades and got their butts whipped. Remember 2003, I think it was, when George Bush was on the ship and he
Mission accomplished.
And he said, any minute it'll be over. 8 years later, they were hightailing it out of Iraq. Same thing in Libya, same thing all over the world. They have never won a war, and they have never said it in the way that it was really going down. So the sister does a good job. Kay, can we do that now?
To recognize and salute my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and so excited to have him on today to really deepen our understandings of what's happening right now with the U.S.-Israel war on Iran. And we're just going to go over a couple of things that have transpired over the last several days. And of course, we made a report on last week's show of some of the acts of aggression that we predicted were leading up to this moment. And here's what we know of what's transpired over the last few days. The morning of February 28th, during Ramadan, a period of fasting, and while negotiations were taking place, the U.S. and settler colonial U.S. proxy of Israel carried out a joint attack on the Islamic Republic of Iran using B-2 bombers to assault Tehran, Isfahan, and other regions. They targeted civilian infrastructure, including a school for girls. 165 Iranian girls have been killed in this attack. Iran responded forcefully by striking military targets in the Zionist entity in Haifa and Ashkelon, and in the United Arab Emirates, or the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Jordan. In Qatar, an Iranian missile evaded 3 Patriot missiles. Iran struck a U.S. military support ship. The Iraqi resistance struck alongside Iran. Iran destroyed U.S. radar with a range of 5,000 kilometers that had detected Iranian missiles. Iran's initial retaliation used only the old stockpiles. A French reporter admitted the Iron Dome can't handle ballistic missiles, and the U.S. Zionist entity's stockpiles are low. Iran also struck Palm Jumeirah in the UAE, a luxury development in which the Trump family has investments. Iran also hit Israel's desalination plant and the center of Tel Aviv. The Zionist entity is suppressing information on how many are dead and wounded. Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz, presenting major shocks to the colonial economy. Even George H.W. Bush didn't attack Iran for fear of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The Dubai airport is closed indefinitely. A Zionist settlement area was destroyed. Iran hit the Harir base in northern Iraq and the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. The base is a hub for U.S. Special Forces and houses U.S. military assets. Iran inflicted heavy damage on the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet. There are reports that the head of the Zionist entity fled to Cyprus, was rejected, and had to try to seek refuge in Berlin. Iran's opening retaliatory strike lasted for 15 hours. Big targets included a CIA base in the UAE, Israel's nuclear facilities, and the general staff building of its military. Iran succeeded in inflicting heavy damage on the CIA base and succeeded in striking the entity's nuclear facilities, including the Dimona reactor. Iran also struck 3 oil tankers near or in the Strait of Hormuz. One is French Skylight flying the Palau flag. Though the US and Israel have attacked Iran again, including central Tehran, Qom, Karaj, and Shabah Port, Iran says that martyrdom of the leaders will not slow down its military operations. Over 113 US colonial soldiers have been killed, around 200 have been wounded. Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei has been martyred. The CIA is responsible for revealing his location. Iran said Ayatollah Khamenei's martyrdom will trigger a great uprising against the tyrants of the world. Iran forced the UK to use interceptors to defend its base in Cyprus. Iran's True Promise 4 continues, and already hundreds of thousands outside of Iran have risen up. Iraqis have stormed the US embassy and have seized heavy industrial equipment. Pakistanis set the UN office in Skardu on fire, and Pakistani youth stormed 2 US consulates, and at one of the US consulates attacked US Marines. On the African continent, Burkina Faso has closed the US embassy and has labeled the US and the Zionist entity of Israel terrorist states. As of March 1st, Iran's Revolutionary Guard says it has struck the USS Abraham Lincoln with 4 ballistic missiles. Also, the French naval base in Abu Dhabi was hit by missiles and drones, and the US base in Kuwait was hit with a drone. Iran and the Iraqi resistance have destroyed the US base in Erbil. France has moved its carrier strike group in position to attack Iran. Germany and the UK are preparing to attack Iran also. Iran has been destroying the US base in Qatar. That base is the headquarters of the US Central Command. Hezbollah has launched rockets at Haifa. Iran has shot down 3 US F-15 fighter jets. Iran targeted a security meeting, killing over 10 of Israel's generals. Reports have also come in that the head of Israel's chief of staff has been killed. Iran hit at least 2 Amazon data centers, one in UAE and the other in Bahrain. US has relocated most of its aircraft to Cyprus. Qatar has stopped production of liquid natural gas. Israel has ordered Chevron to shut down the Leviathan gas field, and the Madrid government made 15 US aircrafts withdraw from Spanish.
Now look at that. You're not going to get that on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News. Ines?
Brother, we're so glad you're here to break this information down to us. Chairman, you know, the initial response was Trump saying we want regime change. That's what he said first. And we're going to call on the people to come out in the streets. And then he said we want to stop them from their nuclear weapon buildup. And this was a, quote, preemptive strike for an imminent attack that was going to come. Well, let's get to the analysis of all of that thrown up in the air and have you comment on that and lead us further in our discussion.
Oh, thank you so much. I thought that was a really important kind of overview.
Yes.
That Director Akira Nayi just provided us.
Yes.
And obviously it's closer to the truth than anything we've heard from the colonial media. The fact is that they were guided by hubris. It was really stupid what they've done. Mm-hmm. They moved with an assumption that somehow they were going to end this thing, and they actually talked about 4 or 5 days it would be over. They based that in part on their temporary success in Venezuela, where they were able to rush in and actually capture the president of the country, and the presumption here is you decapitate, the resistance. You decapitate the leadership of the movement, and victory can be yours. And so this is part of what what sort of guided the stupidity that you can't call it too much more than stupidity. I mean, they're not even taking into consideration, among other things, the history of the Persia, what used to be known as the Persian Empire. The Iranians, Iran has existed, maybe 5-10 times longer than what is now known as the United States. And the people from childhood have been made proud of who they are as Persians or Iranians and what have you. So that was that's deep. It's really profound. It's one of the reasons they would do everything they can to keep Africans separated from our history, because even if you just look at what happened, with the libations, you get a sense of who we are and where we come from. And if our people had consciousness of that, I used to always say that if Africans recognize that it was we who built the pyramids of Egypt, we would refuse to live in the slums of Brooklyn. You understand? I mean, and so you take that away from the people, and that's been an ongoing process and project they've been involved in. So here you have this attack on Iran, and then you have this ongoing dialogue that's happening not only from the colonial regime here in the United States. You hear it coming from the entity, the illegitimate white nationalist settler colony. You hear it from even people who are supposed to be anti-war, and they talk about the irrational hatred that Iran has for the United States, and they've been troublemakers since 1979. And of course, this is true. It's true because that's when the Iranians overthrew this tyrant, this brutal, murdering pig that had been put in power by the United States government after the elected leader, Mohammad Mossadegh, had talked about just trying to get a record so that of how much oil was coming from Iran going to the United States, and British Petroleum was the major entity that was there that was stealing the oil, and so Mossadegh was overturned, and he was replaced by this very brutal dictator. And I just want to say we have a history of working with Iran. This is not just a new phenomenon for us, and this discussion we're having now didn't just start from what happened, I think, on the 28th when they just attacked Iran. I mean, we were working with the Iranians before the 1979 siege of what they call this nest of spies, the U.S. embassy there in Tehran. Where they had this dramatic every day on TV, day 2 of the hostage crisis, day 4. Every day they're going through this stuff, so we were working with them. We were working with the Iranians. When in 1979, when the Iranians took their own country back, when they seized that nest of spies, and by the way, they in that embassy, they offered, the women were allowed to go who worked in that embassy, and Africans were allowed to go who worked in that embassy. And Khomeini, the Ayatollah, he made the statement that Muslims have a tremendous amount of respect for women. The women could go. Africans who've been oppressed in this country for a long period of time, the only reason we were there, he said, is because of that. Africans could leave. I mean, there was one African who said he wanted to stay there because our house is on fire.
Chairman, I'm glad you mentioned that. I got a small clip I want to introduce at this point to show you when the Ayatollah was
please.
Mike Wallace. Cairo?
And some female hostages will be released from the American embassy compound. Is that true?
The
freedom of the women and blacks will be given. Women are given great dignity in Islam, and the blacks have been oppressed in the United States. Great injustice was done unto them. They were under pressure in the United States. Thus they came here. We are doing this owing to the tenets of Islam. In return, we ask nothing for their freedom. We want the Shah. Carter must return him. The world's international law agree with this principle.
I ask you, as an American and a human being.
Like, you was right on time, Chairman.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's really important, to know. I mean, this doesn't liquidate any disagreement one might have, like with the regime, but it does. It makes a powerful statement. One, the question of national liberation is one that the Iranians were really interested in, and that's been something that's informed even up to now. That informs their stance, their resistance here during this brutal attack that's being made by the white nationalist, colonial state of settler colonial state of Israel and the United States. So the question of self-determination has been really, 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 really important to the Iranians. Of course, there are a lot of groups have been for self-determination, many of them all over Africa, but poor people still have problems because it doesn't say anything about the nature of the social system. It's just that we don't want to be dominated by this colonial power, and that was true, and we supported that. And when we supported that, I mean, in the most prestigious university in the state of Florida, the University of Florida, which, by the way, has done a lot of digitizing of our materials coming from years and years. But that university, white students at night were having these rallies. Sand niggers go home. This is coming from these sand niggers go home. This is something I wanted to shove down the throats of these New York nationalists who were saying, this ain't got nothing to do with us, right? They were saying, send the Klan to Iran. These are the students, these are the ones who are going to be the politicians leading the state of Florida moving forward and going beyond that. So we mobilized the African community, had a huge demonstration in support of the Iranians, and because they were killing people who they thought were Iranians. They didn't know what an Iranian was. They didn't know it was they couldn't make a distinction between an Arab and a Persian or anything like that. If they wore a turban or they looked like that, they were being attacked all over the United States. And so we were appalled by that. And we called on the African community, and the African community came out and we demonstrated against them. And we were attacked on one occasion. On the second occasion, we made it through this mob of frothing at the mouth white nationalists who had been sitting, waiting for us to come, getting drunk, the motorcycle gangs, and with the sheriff's department sitting there with them. And then when we got there, you had hundreds of these white people waving the American flag, chanting America, America, America. And we marched right up in the middle of them going, Africa, Africa, Africa. They parted the way. I stood up on a makeshift platform and I said, the sand niggers are here. And and so the sheriff departments, they said, well, this is as far as we were supposed to go. I said, don't leave. We don't care. And then we marched just a couple of blocks down the street, and we got to the African community, and we turned into the African community, and Africans start coming out of the clubs and out of the houses in the neighborhood, and these America chanting white people, Africans said, you ain't in America now. Literally, this is what the Gainesville Sun, which I think was bought by the New York Times, this is what the Gainesville Sun quoted these Africans as said. They weren't part of our movement. We got to the Black community and we stopped. And the Africans came out and they said, you ain't in America now. And they start chasing these white people. And you saw the American flag flying in the air from the wind that it captured, getting the hell out of that community. So we've had this relationship. We worked with them for a long period of time, during that period of time anyway. So it's not a new thing for us. But the white left didn't. It didn't support the Iranians. It did not support, they supported the U.S. attack. And even now, when they talk about what's happening, they couch their words in terms like, well, it's a horrible dictatorship there, but we don't think the U.S. should do it because it violated the laws and stuff like that. What kind of stance is that? Right. How in the hell are you going to equate some kind of the Iraq or Iran with some kind of tyranny in the face of this government? So and the way it moves around the world, kidnapping people, and this is something that happened way back then, and still in the consciousness of the Iranian people. what the United States has done, the role it's played, along with the illegitimate white national state of Israel. So obviously, you saw you heard the report that we were just talking about, all of the arenas that were hit
Yes.
by the Iranian response. It didn't take long. I mean, it wasn't, they waited a week. I mean, within hours, and this is after they've decapitated the government, killed the Ayatollah and what have you, and within hours, you know, you saw this barrage coming. And I think this hit something like 14 different countries.
That's
and
right.
what the U.S. had relied on, Israel, the so-called Iron Dome that was going to protect Israel. They can't penetrate it. They have these interceptors that cost $1 million each. And the Iranians were using $35,000, $50,000 drones, shooting them out. And they were sending these $1 million missiles to attack these drones and what have you. And then they almost exhausted their supply. And so then the Iranians upped the ante and began to shoot heavier stuff at them. And now what we've seen is that even supersonic missiles are going there and they are penetrating. And some people say that parts of Israel looks like much like Gaza right now, just in terms of the effectiveness of the counter the response by the Iranian forces.
Let me ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think the region, they're calling it a regional war now? Now, the regional war, I think it's interesting that Iran said, look, we're going to hit those nations that had military bases in them. And in some of those countries, I hear that when the pilot, you know, airdropped, parachuted from the 3 planes that they claim friendly flyer, people say Iran shot him down.
Yeah.
But they say some of the people in that country went after him, trying to beat the pilots up that parachuted. And so do you think that regional war they're talking about is going to turn into World War III? Or is it, in fact, some of those same countries are saying, hey, as long as you hit the American bases, we ain't got no problems with you?
Well, here's what part of what's happening is, first of all, hundreds more Americans have died than what they've said. You can't hit all these U.S. installations. They hit CIA bases. They hit major U.S. installations. And they're not saying, then it's only four, I think they're going up to 6 now, Americans were killed. That's a lie. I mean, if you just look at it, you just go if you just go to social media, Facebook and Instagram and all that, you see the numbers of U.S. installations that have been hit. It's impossible that only 4 or 6 Americans were killed. A whole bunch of Americans have been killed as a consequence of this response. But they can't tell it because the Americans don't have a stomach for being punished for what it is that they do. So if they can continue to do it and don't have to pay a consequence, it's easier for them to do that. But they are paying a heavy consequence there. There are many more these Europeans in the settler state have been killed than what they have said. Because here's the contradiction. Because the Iranians have no place to go. They're home. But when the proverbial manure hits the fan right there in this illegitimate white national state of Israel, you're going to see whatever can get out of there coming back to Manhattan and going back to these other places where they came from in the first place, because they have no historical roots in that area, though they claim that God did not give anything to them. I mean, even if you know, in the same camp you are in, Comrade Charles, with the God thing, I don't believe your God is a real estate agent, you know, and gave all this land to them. That's nonsense. So they have no place to go except back to Manhattan, and that's temporary. And then back to, you know, places that they came from in Eastern Europe, etc. So it's a real contradiction, a real crisis that they are going to be confronted with. The more damage is being done, and I think that thousands of U.S. citizens have been brought out by charter planes and things like that. Anything they can catch flying, they get out of there. They've been trying to get out of there, and so that's one aspect of it. In terms of World War III, see, I think that we've been involved in world wars for a long time. it becomes a quote unquote world war when it involves the colonizers. I mean, how are you going to make it a world war? This world war that they talk about, it was to the extent it was fought in Europe, is effectively what it is that they're talking about. But they were killing people, the same forces, and using military forces, the Spanish, the French, France, the great anti-colonizer, the anti-fascist country of France, even as it was pinning medals on itself for fighting against the fascist Germany, they controlled 50 some odd black states that have been created. They were fighting and killing people in Vietnam. They were oppressing people in Algeria and what have you. It's garbage. So how it becomes a world war when it seems to affect the white people or the colonizer, but it's not world war until then. We've been fighting a damn world war forever. Now, the question is whether or not this is something that can draw great powers into this process, like Russia and particularly China. And China has been pretty cool in terms of its stance up to now. So has Russia, because for a while I was really annoyed because it seems clear to me that some kind of back channel agreement had to have been made before they attacked Iran, because otherwise it seemed to me that it would have been too riskier, that they would prefer always to fight so that the proxies do the fighting for them. Because once the great powers engage in the struggle, then you look at the possibility of nuclear conflagration. So they would try to avoid that. They would try to have war by proxies. But here's what has happened. You see, because it seems as if Iran has an inexhaustible amount of missiles and bombs, and also they have the trained forces to use this stuff. And these are really sophisticated missiles. When you're talking about hypersonic missiles, and Russia's got hypersonic missiles, and Putin has been bragging about them at certain times. So I suspect that the agreement that might have come about back channel is one that says that they would not enter themselves into the struggle, as is Russia or China wouldn't necessarily engage in combat themselves. But I believe that they've supplied Iran with an inexhaustible amount of missiles and drones, North Korea as well, that contributed to this thing. Now, the question is whether the United States and Israel will be able to survive this. And I mean this really because much of this you're talking about liquid natural gas, you're talking about the oil, and already in some places oil has gone up something like 10-20%. You're talking about affecting the entire global economy. It's blocking the Strait of Hormuz, where much of the food going to traveling to East Asia and what have you has to go through, and something like 20% or more of the oil goes through.
That's right.
When you say 20% of the oil, you might be talking about 95% of the oil of Japan. You might be talking about 40-some-odd% of the oil going to China and other places like that. So
On that, Chairman, they mentioned that they bombed the boats of the Revolutionary Guard so they can open up Hormuz and the other channels. However, they have two sets of navies in Iran. It's the Revolutionary Guard protecting Hormuz, and also the government has a navy. And then they also said that China and Russia, they meaning I hear it on different China and Russia is laying back temporarily. And they're saying, let America waste all that stuff. And when it gets real low, and then folks try to threaten if Israel does with nuclear weapons. By the way, the international agency said that Israel has 90 nuclear warheads. 90 nuclear warheads.
Yeah.
Iran has none.
None.
And had this Natanz facility with the uranium enrichment, centrifuges, for 20, 30 years. If they wanted to do a bomb, it would have been made already.
Yeah.
And they had already made agreements that they would, honor the nuclear proliferation treaties. So a lot of folk feel that, and you said it best when you said Persia, Iran's been around for 2,700.
Yeah.
China 5,000 years.
Yes.
America 250 years old.
Yes.
They're new kids on the block. Israel 75 years from 48. They are new kids on the block. And a lot of people said all Iran has to do is survive. America and Israel has to win. And many people think they'll never win.
They can't win. And that's the contradiction that they're facing. And they're even toying with the idea of sending ground troops in. And Iran, which would prove to be catastrophic. And it may be something that they're forced to do because they've made so many promises that they're going to overturn the regime. And obviously they haven't been able to do it. Malcolm X was absolutely correct. He said the white man cannot win another war on the ground, cannot win a war on the ground. So he's powerful from up in the air and et cetera, using missiles. But coming to the ground, that's the question. And no war, no regime change has succeeded just from air attack. And, I've seen this said by people who've been studying this stuff for more than 100 years. And the fact is that they're going to have to come to the ground. And the question is whether they can or not. And I think also part of the thing that informed this decision was the presumption by the Trump administration, because Trump, his relatives, his sponsors, they're making a lot of money. There's a lot of money here. I mean, Adelson is Israeli. He's the one who's funded Trump. He said he's going to fund Trump for a third attempt at the presidency. He's millions of dollars they're putting into Trump. And Trump, what's his son-in-law? They have all kinds of major investment here. They're going to lose it, but major investments in these areas that's now being attacked. So you're looking at that being part of the incentive. And you're talking about this journal of the ruling class called Foreign Affairs. It was something that was initiated some years ago by the Rockefellers and the Trilateral Commission. They created this commission, part of the Atlanticist bloc, that would try to govern the world. And it was trilateral because it was the United States, Japan, and Europe. And so they're the ones who make these big decisions. They, here is one, America Adrift, Foreign Affairs. This is the magazine, the journal they put out. And the one they've got now, the most recent one, is talk about governance are ruled by kleptocracy. Kleptocracy. And they go through all of the amount of money attached to what Trump and his relatives and his good friends are doing. That it's not even the facade of trying to carry out the common good of the country and stuff like that. It's basically a facade. I mean, you've heard him talking about what they're going to do with Gaza. They're going to turn it into this real estate thing, etc. And that's how they're planning things. What is you heard him say about Venezuela? We're going to make a lot of money going into Venezuela, etc. It's a kleptocracy. And the thing is that the Americans are going to have to make a determination, I believe, of whether or not they're willing to go down with the ship. And I think they're going to have to be faced with hard choices because the U.S., the world is not going to be as it was, coming out of this thing. They're going to pay a horrible price. And when they pay this price, they've already, I'm sure they've emboldened Venezuelans. That is to say, this struggle has the success of the Iranians in defending themselves. They've also made, I'm sure, the so-called Gulf states who thought the United States was going to protect them, could protect them.
Right.
I don't think that's true right now. Even the Israelis who thought they could rely on being protected by the United States. These are questions that they've never had to ask these questions before. And now I think we're approaching that thing that Che Guevara talked about 2-3 mini Vietnams when he was saying that, you know, his strategic objective is to force the colonizers, the imperialists, the U.S. to fight on so many different fronts. And this is what we see. I think you're going to see something that materializes of much greater. And I think you're going to see even in the countries in the so-called Gulf, these reactionary Gulf states. I think you're going to see people, the population in Jordan, in Saudi Arabia, and other places, people rising up because they don't like this relationship that has been put on them with Israel. It's gonna be a rocky road ahead.
And you know what's something deep about Africa? A lot of people think that Trump's hit on Venezuela, on Iran, on Nigeria, and what they're doing to Cuba right now is really an attack on Africa and China and Russia, because they can't go after them directly. So what they're thinking about, maybe hit these oil spots and the geopolitical spots. And if they do that, perhaps China won't overtake them with the gross national product, and the BRICS group will not, even though that's a nebulous and, you know. But still,
I think that they may think like that because, you know, but the greater problem they have is that you know, you can't make them smart, you know. But the greater problem they have is that they do not recognize that they're functioning within a particular mode of production. That the world has been, you know, with the attack on Africa and the dispersal of African people around the world, the creation of entities, countries that didn't even exist before. You know, I mean, they attacked Venezuela. There was no Venezuela before. Africans were deported there, enslaved, so-called African people who were enslaved, and all over the Americas were created as a consequence of the attack on Africa. So you had the emergence of a whole new world economy. And they don't recognize that. You know, it's transactional. What they see is where they can make a buck, where they can do this and do that at any given moment. They're strong, they're powerful, they do push-ups and stuff like that. But they don't recognize that they're functioning within a particular mode of production. That's right. And the fabric of the colonial mode of production is being ripped more and more every day. And that fabric, that colonial mode of production includes Africa, includes Iran, includes the vast majority of the people upon whose backs the whole colonial empire, the whole colonial regime, the whole parasitic relationship. They suck our blood, and that's how they feed their children. You see, and I mean, they've been more and more able and willing to say that. You know, you heard people like the Cuban Gusano, who is the Secretary of State.
Rubio.
Yeah. He goes to the summit, the security summit in Germany, and he talks about, you know, European, you know, this whole thing is about European civilization. That's what they are protecting and forwarding and stuff like that. I mean, they hold up colonialism as this wonderful thing that has, you know, brought wonders, and it has brought wonders for them at the expense of everybody else. But their world is shrinking, and they don't quite understand what's happening. They think they got enough bombs and enough technology and enough drones that can spy on people. And let me just say this:
yes,
the thing that's happening. We got hit. As I say, African People's Social Party, the Hura movement got hit for the same reason Venezuela got hit, for the same reason Iran got hit, for the same reason Palestine got hit, because we're leading a movement that's opposed to the colonial mode of production, and we're organizing right here on the ground. And you know what? We wouldn't be involved in this struggle if the white left hadn't been such an opportunist movement. It has never supported the black struggle against colonialism. It didn't support the Black Panther Party that way. When Malcolm X was killed, how many white leftists did you see out in the streets? When, you know, you saw that in Minnesota right now, in Minneapolis, and I appreciate that. But you didn't see it when Fred Hampton was murdered. You didn't see this kind of thing, and you didn't see them supporting colonialism, the struggle against colonialism. In fact, the only way the Panthers got them finally support them in some way or another is in 1972 when they had a national conference against fascism. When they had a national conference against fascism in Oakland, 9,000 people showed up, and majority of them were white.
That's
and they
right.
pulled up because now they're saying, we in this together. It ain't struggling for black people. It's us, etc. So now black people are struggling for us against this fascism thing. This is part of what it is that we've had to deal with.
It's about Africa and currency.
Yes.
Part of the real battle and this colonial mode of production is what is the currency that's going to be used. And notice in Iran, in Iran and in Venezuela and in Nigeria, even though they have a neo-colonial government, they were selling the oil to China in the yuan and to Russia in the ruble, not the dollar.
Yes.
When they saw that, they got burnt at those countries and said, you are not going to join BRICS and devalue the dollar.
Yeah.
And so the same things happen in Burkina Faso and Mali and Niger, that the dollar is being devalued ever since that conference in 1944, the Bretton Woods Conference, when they created the IMF, the World Bank. All of that is
the
dying.
Atlantis.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's I think that's true, and that's the point that I'm making too, is that the whole fabric of the colonial mode of production is shredding, and none of the stuff is holding together anymore. And people are conscious of the fight that they're involved in, and even if they're not, it's like after Ali beat George Foreman. Everybody wanted to fight Foreman. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody was scared to death of Foreman until Ali beat him, and then Foreman started fighting, 5 times a month, because everybody wanted a piece of him after that. And I think you're looking at that potential right now. I think that you're going to see more people and countries willing to struggle against this hegemon. And when they've seen the significance of resistance by Iranian. And you're also going to see the fracturing of societies that were based on an assumption that the United States was going to be able to protect them or control everything, etc. And even some of the, like Saudi Arabia is a huge territory, which was created in 1919, which was created in 1919 by the French and the British, the Sykes-Picot. And not just that, but even the contours of what is now Lebanon, the contours of what is Syria, all this. This was created by them, and this stuff is tenuous. It's extremely tenuous. And
you remember Spain? Spain's not cooperating.
Yeah, it's interesting, Spain. I spoke in
So
I was in Spain.
I was looking at your tape. Well, are you actually in Spain?
Yeah.
And then
Huelva, Spain. And I was in the place that, several things about Spain. Africa civilized Spain. Much of Europe in Spain, the so-called Iberia, Portugal, etc. That's where they achieved civilization. And Africans were asked to come in because up to that time, was they Visigoths or something like that had dominated that territory that was called Spain. And they asked Africans to come in, and Africans came in, and with the paltry number of force, were able to defeat the Visigoths and then began the process of civilization. Really brought civilization there.
Did the Moors have anything to do with that? The Moors.
Yeah, that's part of who were considered probably Moors, etc. And that's where the whole civilization came from. Moors were African, black people, And so that's where we saw the civilization of Europe. That's where it comes from. I just thought that was extremely important. It's important. Africans have to know our own history.
Yes.
We have to know our own history. We have to fight for that. And we have to take that to masses of our people. And so people won't be cowards. You understand?
Right.
It's one thing to be afraid, but the time that your fear limits your ability to fight for your freedom and for the freedom of our people, that's cowardice.
Yeah.
So,
right.
And I'm saying this because I think it's important, because I don't want people to be uptight because they're scared. Yeah, be scared, but fight.
Right.
That's right.
I remember one of these Spinks, Michael Spinks, they asked him one time before he fought this white boy, Cooney, who was supposed to be the great white hope of that time. They asked him, are you watching tapes of him fight? And he said, no, I'm not watching the tapes because I'm just watching. It just make me scared. So I'm not going to do that. Watch him knock out people. So,
that's watching that. You know, we say feel the fear and do it anyway. You know?
Do it anyway. So I'm so confident about potential in the future.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Tim.
Go ahead. You go ahead. Come in.
Last 5 minutes. By the way, Betty Davis said we're doing a good job. She's watching, and
well, if Betty said it's true.
And also Joyce, Brave Boy from Operation Power, she's always watching. There's a lot of good comments coming in. But I want you to close it out in the next 5 minutes and get more into African internationalism as the theory, the revolutionary theory for African people in the 21st century.
I do think that's extremely important because we have people who do a lot of work, and some of us really good work. They work really hard and what have you, but it's not connected to an end. What is to what end? And you know, we call it like you can be on a treadmill and you can run, you get all sweaty, you can max it up and run, but you ain't going nowhere. And so the thing is to what end? And that's one of the reasons theory is important. You know, some people dismiss theory, you know, this is just abstract stuff, etc. But theory is important because it's the thing that says to what end. And if you don't have a to what end, anything then can become a substitute for what it is that you should be fighting for. And that's what somebody has said when they talk about some of these struggles that people get involved in, because the colonizer, the oppressor, will come and slap your mama. You know, you on the road to trying to make this liberation struggle happen, the colonizer come and slap your mama, and you stop trying to free the world because he slapped your mama. You understand? That's a pretty serious thing, you know. And if you don't know where you're going, that's what we end up doing all the time. That's opportunism, when you sacrifice the long-term interests of the people, of the revolution, of the workers, for some kind of a substitute for a particular petty bourgeoisie or something like that. That's opportunism. So what keeps us safe, what allows us to stay fixed on what it is we're fighting for, is theory. And if we come to theory, then we understand that Africans are critical to the development of this period that we live in. The emergence of this socialism, capitalism, comes from colonialism. Was no capitalism. Anytime they talk about capitalism, they talk about, Marx said it himself. He said part of what he said, in order for us to have had this capitalism, there was this thing called a primitive accumulation of capital. What is this primitive accumulation of capital? And among other things, he said, was turning Africa into a warren for the commercial hunting of black skins. He said it was the brutality and that's being visited upon people in East India. He said it was what happened to the Aboriginal people here in this country, bringing up gold and silver for the colonizer. He called it primitive accumulation, but what it really was the mode of production that's something that preceded what they came to be known as capitalism. And so Marx couldn't see that it was a mode of production, because for him, the modes of production included what he characterized as primitive communism, slavery, not us, Kirk Douglas slavery, the kind of slavery with Spartacus and stuff like that. Slavery, and then he talked about after slavery, feudalism, and from feudalism, capitalism, and after capitalism, then the real deal now, communism, comes into existence. We're saying, no, you got that wrong. You can't get from feudalism to capitalism without explaining this missing link. This missing link, feudalism in Europe required as a pedestal. Marx said it himself. He said wage slavery in Europe, capitalism in Europe required as a pedestal slavery pure and simple in the New World. That was us. So the whole thing rests upon a foundation of African colonization, of what was come from, somebody mentioned Asia, Africa, the Americas, and what have you, represent the foundation. That's why you see when we had the hands off Uhuru, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa.
Yeah, well, we got to end it there. We got a minute left. Chairman, we got to have you back, man. We just getting warmed up. You know,
I love it. And you got to tell people, you got to come to St. Louis.
Yes.
And you should, sister, you should bring him, because I'm telling you, my wife said that we have to have this love and revolution. Revolution and love, and show this connection. And y'all supposed to be one of the examples of this revolutionary and love. So
give us the information, the details about the upcoming.
Right, so
is it here?
Is it up? Is it there?
Not yet.
Details about the
Well, just tell them the dates and all that. So
the dates from April 17th, 3 days, 17th, 18th, and 19th, right. St. Louis, Missouri. Go to apsplenary.org, PLENERY.org.
Well, we've run out of time, but this has been awesome, man. We're gonna do
they
it.
Who are out of time. They out of time. Thank you so much. Uhuru.
Just remember, we are winning.
We are winning.
There are 8 billion people in the world. 4 to 5 billion of them are us.
That's right.
We got money, we got people, we got everything we need to win. So at the end of each program, I said the truth shall set you free. But let me tell you this also. Don't be afraid, but the truth can put you in jail. The truth
will.
The truth can do all of that, but never be afraid for searching the truth. Because we
Malcolm X answered the question: what is the wage of freedom? And he said death. And the fact is that they will kill us. They will kill us. They tried to put me in prison for 15 years the last time, and they have tried to assassinate me on more than a couple of times. So
what are you, 80 what?
84.
Look at
84.
84. Look, about 60, 70 of those 84 years, he was a revolution.
That ain't too much, looking like 60 or 70, but I'll take it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairman. So we say every week, my wife and I, come back with us next week. We're going to have another powerful program. And we say every week, the truth shall set you free. And as the chairman says, power is the great equalizer.
Indeed it is.
Black power.
Black power. Uhuru.